Again, this other language, Section 14, is cooperation with federal authorities. Section 15 is penalties for local governments that do not enforce our current law. We currently have a requirement that to receive public benefits, a person must provide identifying documents, and if the agency does not follow that law and request those documents, there will be penalties as provided. Section 16 allows for a citizen to go to the Attorney General and say, I do not think that this county or city or this state department is complying with the law, and it allows the Attorney General to look into it and see if that's the case, and if it is the case, to correct it, and if it doesn't get corrected, to provide for penalties. Section 17 is an addition to our current law. When we passed these other bills several years ago, we required, we didn't require, but we encouraged businesses to use a verification system, not E-Verify, because I don't believe we may not have had it at the time, but would require business to verify the legality of their workers. If they did not, they would lose the tax deductions that they get for wages paid to employees. And so this would just provide a penalty that if a business does not use E-Verify, then they do not get the deduction for wages paid to the employees. Section 20 provides for further penalties when local governments do not comply with these various statutes. Section 21 identifies several documents that are secure and verifiable documents and lists those. Evidently, there's a lot of fraudulent documents that are passed around in this process, and this is an effort to identify those documents that have been determined to be secure and verifiable and list those in this section of the bill. And that's a pretty quick description, Mr. President. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
Senator, I see no questions. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have two senators. Chair calls on the senator from 26th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator, as I understood you going through the bill, is it not true that you identified several things that would have to be enforced by law enforcement, by state law enforcement?
I don't believe I identified anything that would have to be enforced. It authorizes enforcement and cooperation with federal law enforcement.
Senator, further yield.
Yes.
Is it not true if the law is not going to have to be enforced, that is it not true that we don't need it?
Well, that's a good point. But evidently, the public is wanting to see some action on this issue, and the fact that we put it in our law in this state that our local law enforcements are encouraged and authorized to enforce immigration laws, and we provide incentives for them to do that. We are moving the ball forward and not just writing words on paper.
Senator, further yield.
Yes.
Is it not true that if we don't have to enforce the law, in fact, that is not action?
Well, this legislation contains lots of incentives for law enforcement to enforce the law, and I believe that encourages enforcement that may not be there currently.
Senator, further yield.
Yes.
Senator, is it not true that you will now define what incentives are there? And is it not also further true that it's extraordinary to have to give law enforcement an incentive to enforce the law? Is that not true that we hire them to enforce the law?
Well, local and state law enforcement officers are not necessarily immigration enforcement officers. As I mentioned, the federal government is trying to encourage states to get involved in enforcement of immigration laws, and this is an effort to encourage our local and state law enforcement to be trained in how to enforce immigration laws, and it's a step in the right direction. And there are incentives. For example, if a local agency participates in the 287G program, they will get more money for reimbursement per diems for the state prisoners they hold in their jails. There's also encouragement for the CJCC to provide grants, and of course all of this is subject to funding, but that encouragement is there.
Senator, for the year,
yes.
Is it not true that what you've just described is an unfunded mandate?
It's all subject to funding.
Senator, for the year,
yes.
is it not true that if you don't have the money to enforce the law, you are not obligated to enforce the law? And is it not true that you, in fact, do not have an enforceable law?
Well, I see where the senator from the 26th is going, and I'm not going to go there with you. I understand you're saying that you don't think we need the law, but I believe the result is that maybe we do. I don't know. We'll see when the vote's had.
Senator from the second.
Senator, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator, in Section 7 of this bill, as I read it, if I'm a church member and I want to transport some people to church, would I be liable? Would I be breaking the law?
No, you would not.
Do the senator further yield?
Yes.
Well, sir, what if I'm transporting some people I just meet driving by and say they want to go to church, and my tail's lights out and I'm pulled over, and the police officer pulls everybody's ID, and one of those people that's going to church with me on that particular Sunday finds out that he may not be a resident of this state, or he may not be a resident of this country. Now, will I too go to jail?
If you are committing a crime and you knowingly are transporting a verified illegal alien, then you could be subject to criminal penalties. But it would
Does the senator further yield?
Yes.
Is it customary, well, the church I attend, we don't customarily ask people when they want to go out of church and when they enter our doors, are you legal or are you not legal? If I don't know, or even if I do know and that person wants to go to church with me, am I breaking the law?
If you do know that you are transporting an illegal alien and you commit another crime, then you could be subject to punishment if you know you're doing that.
So you're saying if I offer someone to come to church with me that may not be of this country, I will be breaking the law?
If you know they are an illegal alien.
And this is man's law, not church law?
I'm sorry?
This is man's law. This
is actually federal law that we are implementing in the state law also. This has been law since 1986 in the federal law.
Thank you very much, sir.